You just saw the victory speech from both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I'm interested in your first thoughts, not only from a historical perspective, but just from what we saw tonight.
Well, several things come to mind. One is words that were not spoken. I don't know if you noticed the big banners that were up on a jumbo screen, I think on either side of the stage, that said, "The people have chosen empathy." I thought that was quite interesting and I think quite true in contrast to a president who I think many people thought he had sympathy for their issues and their problems. And no doubt, he also got more than 70 million votes. And that, as he had said in his victory speech in 2016, he had fomented a movement, which he had, and that movement continues to move. But I think empathy was the watchword of this campaign for Joe Biden. I sit here in Charlottesville, and he made reference to it when he launched his campaign to find and refine and recapture the soul of America. So I think that he will do that with empathy. I would say that the speech is not going to go down in history as the Gettysburg Address, but it was very typical of Joe Biden, very heartfelt, very much sort of the Irish Paul of days gone by in big cities in this country. And the fact that he had Kamala Harris, the vice president-elect, that's the first time a vice president-elect has opened the victory speech for the president, so president-elect. So I think it's very important to make that note historically.
Well, absolutely. There are so many unprecedented things happening tonight. Dr. Perry, for example, Vice President-elect coming out, introducing the President-elect. Also, in his speech, he did mention COVID, and really this was an acceptance speech like no other, just the way it was actually planned and executed, with people outside, people in cars. Talk about that a bit.
Yes, well, I still have a little hard time getting used to, instead of hearing applause, hearing a few applause, but mostly car horns. But I know around the country, as people have been engaging in these almost national block parties, I'll call them, or even in my little neighborhood here in Charlottesville, as soon as I heard the word from media that the Pennsylvania race had been called, I started hearing on the streets surrounding me people honking their horns. So that's sort of the new normal, isn't it, of COVID. I will say that most of these speeches in the modern era started out quite small and informal. They got a little bit bigger, and then they became big spectacles. I think typically you would understand with Bill Clinton in 1992, bringing everybody up on stage and holding it outside at the old State House in Little Rock. And from that point on, obviously Obama there in Grant Park, where you are. These have become big outdoor spectacles. Now they're outdoors by necessity because of pandemic, but it does add a certain spark and charm, I think, to the whole matter.
Dr. Perry, I'm interested in kind of diagnosing exactly what Biden was saying in trying to unify in this speech. He said, let's give each other a chance, and he was speaking directly to those who didn't vote for him. This is a really interesting time in our country as we see the voting numbers, 50.6% to 47.7%. How important was it for Biden in this moment to try once again to unify the country?
Well, as you say, so important because we are so divided. But I will say that in going back today and in preparing for tonight and looking back through history, I went all the way back to 1952 and Dwight Eisenhower's first victory speech. Almost all of these president-elect, they want to reach out to all of the country. Now we call it red and blue states, but we are the United States. Of course, that's how Obama came on the scene in 2004. But I do think it is the case that that's a common theme from all president-elects, or I should say presidents-elect. They want to reach out, but as you say, it's just so important now because we are so divided, and it remains to be seen whether President-elect Biden can make this happen, but at least he's trying. He's trying to say, I know if you didn't vote for me, you probably don't care for me, but I will be your president too. What we don't have typically in these speeches, and we don't have typically in our politics, is the other side, or at least some people on the other side, saying this is a stolen election. We saw some of that, of course, in 2000, but I think part of that Trump movement, there are probably more people thinking that tonight, that this is a stolen election or it's not been fair. And Biden has got his work cut out for him, to be sure, not just on the economy and on COVID, but trying to bring people together and still make them believe that the system is valid and that it works for them.
Well, Dr. Perry, I actually wanted to ask you about that because at the start of his speech, President-elect Biden did call it a clear and convincing victory. However, acceptance speeches are traditionally done after the opponent has conceded. That has not happened. This morning on Twitter, President Trump declaring himself the winner and saying that he does plan to challenge this. So this is definitely unusual.
So much so, and yes, we're shocked that there would be something unusual during these unprecedented times, but you're absolutely right. Not only could President-elect Biden not be able to say that because he hasn't received congratulations or a concession from President Trump. But I actually went back again and looked at all of these speeches, and every single one of them, not only does the president-elect say, I want to thank either the incumbent president who's lost or a president who's coming to the end of 2 terms, or if there's not an incumbent at that moment, they want to thank the challenger. And they always say, I've received a congratulatory telegram, Eisenhower said in 52, or I've received a phone call from my opponent, and I want to thank him. And they'll almost always use the term gracious or graceful or generous. And then they'll say, and this is such a tradition in our country. So it's sad to think that on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, whether they've won or lost, have always been able to say this in our tradition, at least in the modern time of these victory speeches.
All right, Dr. Barbara Perry from the University of Virginia's Miller Center, we thank you so much for joining us tonight.